You're watching or listening to Strangers in Space. And for the next 60 minutes, maybe, we're going to be talking about rouge, so you don't have to. Hi, I'm JR.
And I'm Ian.
I'm John.
I'm Matt.
So after they said the episode was called Rogue, everybody was online then, don't call it rouge by accident, don't type rouge by accident. And of course, the very next day, everybody was typing the word rouge. It's Rogue, of course. We'll just quickly go around the table and see what everybody's sort of first impression was, whether they enjoyed it or not. Ian, also known as Kelly, but Ian, alphabetically, you're first. I'm going to start with John.
Well, as I said last night to the chaps on the midnight chat we have, gayest episode ever. It's completely not male gaze. It's Bridgerton, which is aimed not at straight white men like ourselves. So it was an absolutely perfect thing for Doctor Who to do at this point. I thought it's very nice. It has new voices in the Russell era that fit nicely. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Isn't Bridgerton filled with loads of people ripping their clothes off and having sex with each other?
Yeah.
Pretty much, but you're not going to get away with that tea time on BBC One.
No, but my point is, isn't that the very definition of stuff that middle-aged white blokes just flock to in their thousands?
It's very much a female gaze.
Yes.
When you're looking at the lovemaking, it's.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
When one's looking at lovemaking,
I'm saying that as a bisexual man married to a woman who's. I probably can't discuss her sexuality, but
I wouldn't,
yes.
especially as her name's on the screen for everybody to read.
That's true. Yeah, but anyway, she really loves Bridgerton, and I've watched it with her occasionally, and we'll talk.
What did you think of this, Ian?
This episode, generally very positive. Really liked it, as ever, because we're Doctor Who fans with caveats, but generally really liked it. I watched it twice. I watched it at midnight with my teenage son, who loved it, and then I watched it this morning with Kelly and my 8-year-old, and we all loved it. So it worked across the generations, and I didn't have to explain what racism was this time, which I did last week.
You had other things to explain this time instead.
Oh, that's absolutely. He didn't blink. This is 2024.
It is 2024.
Yeah.
All these anti-woke people are like, you're poisoning the kids. No, you're not poisoning the kids with this kind of stuff. You're just putting stuff on screen that the kids recognise from their everyday lives.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah,
These people, the anti-woke brigade, are stuck in a different century. Anyway, we might come back to that. Matt, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I liked it. I think in the spectrum of from Rosa to Rogue, I think this end of the spectrum is my preferred way of presenting history in Doctor Who. This kind of ironic, subversive, not really history, but genre history side. It might go a little bit far for me, but I find it a relief, basically. And I laughed at the jokes, which is good. So that's a win.
With jokes?
And it looks fun. Yeah, I like the OK stuff. I thought the OK stuff was quite funny.
Yeah,
basically.
It's behind a tree got a massive laugh every time we watched it.
Yeah.
Why is it not cloaked? It's behind a tree.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant writing.
But maybe. I thought there was a disconnect between the writing and the directing. I thought it lacked sort of energy. Not always. This series has been. But 73 yards was fine, and Boom was fine. I think this was one of the lesser ones this year, but I don't know if that's. I think it's in the writing as well, but perhaps more in the direction. But I just think it lacked energy, and I thought the other thing it lacked was there were lots of story threads, and I think I liked all the story threads, but I just didn't feel like the script really tied things together. It was almost like it was going off and doing this thing, and then it's going off and doing this thing, and then it's going off and doing this thing, and it never quite brought all the things together. I don't think it was like, first 20 minutes of the episode was just the Doctor in a room with another character trying to get his pants off. And I'm like, but what's the story?
I think there's a danger because we've had 2 episodes in a row which are sort of heavily conceptual, heavy subtext, to then see this and to try and apply that perception to this episode. Whereas with Doctor Who, as we all know, Doctor Who does tonal leaps every week, which is what's great about Doctor Who. And so I put my Shakespeare code head on rather than my 73 yards or boom or whatever head on.
Yeah, totally. It's I mean, it's called Rogue, so obviously there's the different connotations of that word, but basically the main story is him meeting this guy, and
It is.
And so I mean I think it's quite a simple plot, and that's good in my opinion, because I hate overcomplicated. Oh my god, they didn't tie all the strings up, and it's a bit of a mess. This was a simple plot done very effectively for my money.
Oh yeah, but I usually like the thing that Stephen Moffat, for example, does is when he's got a plot and a couple of subplots, he'll link them thematically. This felt like all the plots weren't linked thematically. I've only watched it the once. I watched it at midnight. I'm wondering why I wasn't invited to this midnight chat, and I'm a bit pissed off about that too.
Well, I didn't chat at midnight. I was watching it very, very tired because my son wanted to watch it. So otherwise I would have gone to bed.
So and it's television, so you put actors in a room and you can never tell what's going to happen. I didn't think there was any chemistry between Gatwa and Groff. I'm reading lots of people saying, oh, the chemistry was off the scale.
Oh, totally.
So
I would agree with them.
John, what did you?
Yeah, I think there's chemistry there, but it's Gatwa is all energy and Groff is a bit more reserved, almost in a lot of ways, kind of more under the surface, because that's the whole point of it. The point thematically is that everyone's cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
Then why, if Groff is the reserved one, why is it the Doctor who is like, oh my god, he's had his world blown away by this piece of wood who stands in the corner doing nothing? I wasn't sold on it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you weren't sold by Jonathan Groff. I think if you weren't sold by that, there's a problem with the episode for you, definitely.
Yeah. For me.
Yeah. It's but I don't know. He's an incredibly sexy man. So
what is he famous for? I forget.
He was in Glee, wasn't he? If I remember, and Hamilton.
Yeah, Glee, and I know him most from what's it called? The Netflix serial killer thing, very different in tone. Mindhunter, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
And also, I believe he's the guy with Anna Torv in that Australian news thing. Unless I'm getting my handsome.
The guy.
Unless I'm getting my handsome people
with the vampire.
Yeah, I think I might be. Is that the guy from Interview with Vampire who's not Jonathan Groff?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting my handsome men mixed up. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
My thing about the Jonathan Groff character, so I saw a comment on Twitter criticizing people who compared him or who suggested he was basically Captain Jack, because Captain Jack was queer and he was queer. So the social media post was suggesting that it's just taking 2 queer characters and conflating them. That's rubbish, isn't it? He absolutely was Captain Jack.
Spaceship and a square gun and everything.
Introduced in the same way, American accent. Effectively a time agent.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of my main sort of big caveats, and I don't know if I'm that bothered by it, but a bit like the bits of Space Babies, it was repeating Eccleston and Billy running around end of the world. This was, and Boom as well suffered from this of being, Moffat's greatest hits, and this was very much a repeat of Family of Blood, repeat of Captain Jack's first meeting, repeat of the psychic paper gag, repeat of the I'm from an estate. Oh, it's a council estate. So we had lots and lots of repeats, which I guess that's a choice to go. This really is. If you've seen it, it was 20 years ago. It's a callback, I suppose. If you're really old, it feels like yesterday.
I had issues. I saw those, so I had slight issues because it felt like it was Captain Jack, but without Moffat's witty character building. It felt like
And
Family Blood,
integration.
but without the complexity or the
When you do
intelligence of the
something-
sort of Paul Cornell's source story. So I thought
Mhm.
it was a kind of a simplification, a flattening of lots of
Well, no,
more interesting
when you-
stories. But I didn't have a
When you
problem
do
with that
something
necessarily.
for the first
Sorry,
time,
JR. Sorry, JR.
when you do,
I'm
trying to answer the point you've just made before you go on.
I
and
haven't
make another-
finished my point.
Matt has the conch.
Yeah, I'm literally in the middle
It's
of my
supposed to be a
point.
conversation.
I know. I'm in the middle of my point. A conversation is somebody gets to the end of their point, and then you can answer the point. You don't cut in the middle of a point,
All
because
right,
otherwise you've got half a point.
Penny Mordaunt, continue.
Yeah. So in the end, I didn't have a problem with this, the flattening of these, because I think this was a more disposable episode than those. This wasn't the first big grand historical episode Doctor Who's done. This wasn't a sort of redefine of a Doctor. What I did like was Ncuti Gatwa had more to do in this rather than being absent for 2 episodes.
Now, rewinding to the thing that I was going to reply to, when you were talking about when you do something for the first time and then when you repeat it, and Space Babies suffers from this too. When you do it for the first time, that writer is integrating it into his script because he's not writing it as a repeated meme. He's writing it as a thing that happens to these characters in this place, in this episode. When you repeat something, what you're taking is something that belongs to other characters in another place, in another episode, and trying to integrate it into your own. And it's really difficult to do that because you're simply repeating the thing rather than coming up with something different and of your own and natural to your episode instead. So sometimes, so for instance, I thought Boom was more successful because it was the same writer, and so he was more able to integrate the things that he was repeating because he wasn't just saying, oh, this is the thing, but he was taking something that he does and sort of molding it into the new thing that he was making. Here, and especially in Space Babies, instead of molding things that already existed into the new thing, they were just repeating it as part of the new thing. And so it sticks out because instead of saying, oh, that reminds me of that, what it instead says is, oh, that is that.
And that, JR,
that's a bit of
is
a
how
problem.
it feels to get to the end of your point without being interrupted.
So Matt, will you
It's a
put that tax up
conversation.
by
I don't
£2,000?
mind. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the faces of the Doctors
Yes.
going around in a circle, because there's a big discussion this morning about that, isn't there? I mean, the thing that I took away from that was, Jesus Christ, they did a really bad job of it, didn't they?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was a really good.
Yeah.
I thought at least it wasn't like just screenshots. I thought it was actually quite effectively done. It
I
actually
think-
gave me an emotional kick.
Oh yeah, me too. But watching it last night, as I said in our WhatsApp chat, I did miss it last night because I was there going, that Eccleston looks really ropey, and so I missed completely till I went on the socials that it was. I mean, massive spoilers. So why are you listening to this?
Nobody's
That it
watching
was
or
that it
listening to
was the
this who's not
Schalke
seen it,
Doctor.
no.
It was Richard E. Grant.
Yeah.
Or-
It's a fatal death.
Yeah. Oh no, don't go there. We didn't have Rowan Atkinson.
Oh,
That's
there's no
not.
lovely, shocking.
I will kill anyone that says Curse of Fatal Death is canon, because it's not canon. That's my red line.
Neither is Scream of the Schalke.
No, it is, because it is now, and that's fine, because it's
What are you on about? It's in the Black Archive range. Of course it's canon.
yes,
This,
but
Curse of Fatal Death was in the VHS range.
but there is also the fact
DVD.
is the Doctor's timeline actually just infected with the Great Intelligence, also played by Richard E. Grant.
The reason why Richard E. Grant was there wasn't because of Scream of the Schalke or Curse of Fatal Death. It was because he was in Loki, isn't it? And
Yeah,
Possibly.
the facial modelling they used was from Loki, wasn't it? And that's why everybody had to watch that scene 3 times before they could work out who the hell they were looking at.
I also think it's Russell T Davies basically trolling the people that had serious problems with the Timeless Children.
yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've not spoken to you guys about your I'm very timeless child skeptic, and I'm coming around. It's happened. I'm still in one of the stages of grief. I'm just about moving out of denial. And Russell T Davies is helping me because he's leaning into it. Everyone said I was just going to ignore it. And in a way, I thought that was worse. That would mean we had a shit episode that changed everything behind the scenes, and then we'd never talk about it again. So on balance,
This is a very
on balance, I like the fact it's happened. I wouldn't have made it happen. I kind of hated it. And now it's happened. It's a bit like, okay, they've done this massive law change and they're leaning into it, and that's better than ignoring it, is my take on the Timeless Children.
we're 100% pro timeless children on this.
Oh, really?
Never had a problem with it from the start.
I'm
I
sensing,
haven't. I don't think
I'm
any of us
sensing
really did.
sarcasm.
No,
I know. No, we're all
I'm
very much behind it.
I'm fine
Oh,
with
wow.
timeless children. I just thought it was an odd idea that wouldn't create any stories at the time, and I think that is the case, that it didn't. There wasn't a story to be born out of it. It was just a presentation of a fact in the
I mean,
episode.
Literally,
I mean,
yes. That's
it's
my
how-
issue with that episode.
Oh, the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
That was dreadful. Which
Nobody can moan about PowerPoint presentations, given the shooty Gatwa episodes we've had so far.
well,
But-
yes.
But what I did think it did was it managed to shape a story about the Doctor's past, where she realizes she doesn't have to know about her past to still be the Doctor. So the whole effect of it was leading up to that point where she just says, I'm the Doctor, I don't need to know all this stuff. It doesn't matter.
And that was
So
the story that was born from it,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. So the fact that the timeless children doesn't matter, and actually I think that's what Russell T Davies is running with, because he's sort of playing with it or riffing with it or teasing the people that had a big problem with it, because it doesn't matter, because the Doctor's adopted, and it doesn't matter where you've come from, even though it's sometimes nice to know. What matters is how you've been raised and where you've been, basically.
Yeah.
These are the stories that you can bring out of it, though. You can tell a story now about an orphan, and Russell T Davies is telling a story about an orphan, which is not quite. It's sort of the story they were telling in 1963, because effectively the William Hartnell and Susan characters are orphaned from their civilization by having run away. So effectively they're orphans. As soon as you get to Patrick Troughton, that's completely brushed under the carpet and raises its head every once in a while. But once you get past the war games, it's not even that anymore.
No,
So
I do wish they'd stuck with them being from the 49th century, to be honest. And I'm not even joking. It bothers me sometimes.
You're an Alan Moore purist who thinks Doctor Who lost his way after Hartnell.
It's just then we wouldn't constantly go, why is he always on Earth? Because he's from Earth. Easy. 49th century, that too. I think it did lost its way when it got remade.
So bringing it back to Rogue, the risk of upsetting any listeners from Down Under, potential listeners from Down Under, should we talk about what it was about?
Yeah, well, I've just listened to a certain podcast from Down Under, God bless them, and they open by basically, they don't say those words because
we're doing this on air.
Yeah, we shit the bed. So they basically go, we missed it, and lots of people have pointed that out, and that says a lot. And we'll go into so fair play. They're just saying we missed it.
They said they made a mistake. They shouldn't have left early. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now we can move on.
Yes. But
the offensive thing wasn't the missing it. It was taking the piss out of Russell T Davies for building up to a twist that he'd forgotten to put in the episode.
Yeah.
And they really went to town on digs at Russell T Davies for not having it there when it was there.
The effect of that is it's made me slightly anxious when I was watching Rogue, just in case I've missed some sort of deep subtext.
It made me do a lot more Googling. So fair play. I don't think I'd be in a hurry to do. I mean, this is fairly hot take, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I've watched it twice and done some Googling. So
I mean, you couldn't really miss this. There's a lot of discussion about cosplaying, and then there's a lot of discussion about Empire. And so you couldn't, I mean, it's all there in the dialogue. You couldn't miss it this time, surely.
My position is, having watched it briefly, I think the cosplay and the Empire thing is probably going to be overstated as subtext. I think it's just there as the cosplay is an in joke.
Yeah,
The Empire thing is a line or two.
I didn't link those two things to Brexit and reactionary people at all till you mentioned it in the WhatsApp. And it's totally there, but I didn't. So maybe I'm I don't think that was such a huge big. This is the thing. Like they're all racist. I think that's a reading that made me go. They're just excited to be on Earth and they want to do all the things they've seen on TV. And I didn't make that leap to they're actually Nigel Farage as a bird, as an evil, taloned, ugly frog-looking bird. But
but it is kind of the point that yes, the A story is the Doctor's relationship with Rogue, and the B plot is this other thing, and maybe that's why in the B plot they put it on the surface quite so much, because they're focusing less on it in terms of time, so they have to condense the way they present it in terms of the dialogue and the on-screen actions. So instead of saying, right, we'll give you a bit of subtlety here, let's say, right, we've got 3 lines to get this idea across, let's do it. I think I think 2 things about the cosplay thing is, one, they mention it like 8 times or something in the episode. They really mention it a lot.
I could have done without that.
Which basically means that the audience is not missing that, and it kind of overbalances that plot into being about that rather than being about anything else, because the audience's mind has been pushed so far in that direction. I think the one thing that was slightly problematic for me is, because I suppose the idea is that these people are cosplaying in a sort of invasive way. So it's not necessarily about cosplayers are bad, but the repetition of the word cosplay made it feel like it was a criticism of cosplaying in itself. But it's about invasive cosplaying, which means
it just made me think that these were bad people that had taken something like cosplay in the wrong way. That they'd taken this affection for television and this desire to want to be in stories.
Yeah, they were the dark side of Galaxy Quest, weren't they? They were like, let's go to Earth and pretend to be these things we've seen on TV.
It's history of a theme park.
Yeah.
But doesn't this episode run the danger of making a suggestion, whether intentional or not, that men dressed as women invading women's spaces is the bad thing?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm saying it's not intentional, but it runs the risk of doing that.
Yeah, but I think but my point at the beginning was, I think this episode is a disposable, ironic. It's Bridgerton, which in itself is disposable and ironic, based on Austen, which, to be honest, is disposable and ironic. So it's kind of, I don't think it has enough weight to shape.
The only negative use of the, I think someone asked in the thing, like, how many people, in fact, it was on another podcast I was listening to, like, how many people know the word cosplay? And that did make me go, the one way I've seen cosplay used negatively is someone is live role playing as a woman in the transphobic stuff. But anyone who stands up and says this was the secret message of this thing either doesn't know who Russell T Davies is.
No, it clearly isn't. But what I'm saying is, it's one of those Mark Gatiss things where he writes The Unquiet Dead, and then afterwards everybody says, oh, hang on, you've accidentally written an episode about the dangers of immigration. And this seems to me like it runs the risk of accidentally being about the dangers of transgender.
I think if that happened in something like Demons of the Punjab or Rosa, then it would have more of a weight. But this happens in the middle of Bridgerton, and one thing they mention more than as much as cosplay is Bridgerton. So it's clearly taking place within a television series.
The Unquiet Dead is more Bridgerton than Rosa.
Yeah,
that suffers from the same issue, right?
I'd say that reading it's obviously not intended.
It's not intentional.
But also it happens in, the most LGBT friendly episode Doctor Who's ever had as well. So I don't think anyone who's one of those people that uses the word woke as a pejorative is going to go, oh, this is the episode for me. I'm absolutely on board with this, because unless you're one of those people who's transphobic and gay, and wow. so I guess Gareth Roberts might go, fine, this is Russell's on my side finally.
But also I thought
you can be gay, but then I'm transphobic, and it makes sense.
This kind of ties up to my point about we've had 2 overtly political episodes in a row.
Yeah.
And I think the danger is coming to this thinking it's going to be Russell T Davies again, whereas I think this is Kate Herron basically doing Loki, which Loki wasn't particularly political. It was playful. It was sort of all over the place.
Well, one of the circular things about this is that Russell T Davies did criticise bi representation in Loki when it was on Disney, and then you flash forward 3 years or however many years it is, and you've got the same writers basically doing this episode on Disney for Russell T Davies. So it's I mean,
if there is
making the Doctor unequivocally bi.
And if there is a criticism of Russell T Davies, I think he's populist. So he doesn't let his internal ethics get in the way of sort of broad spectrum popularity. So if something turns out to be very popular, then, and this is a Richard Osman thing, I think, as well. If something's really popular, he equates it as being really good. And Loki was really popular, at least in sort of fan circles and sort of news circles.
But then Oasis are popular, and let's not go any further down that road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think to move it on again slightly, I think there's a slight issue with the sequencing of the episodes this year.
Yeah.
So let me lay this out. You've got 3 episodes to start: Church on Ruby Road, up to the Devil's Cord, which don't really reveal anything about the characters of the two. I mean, you've got the backstory, but actually, in terms of the character, once you get into the first 2 episodes, you don't find much out about those 2 characters. Then you've got Boom, and Boom seems to be the point at which you start to get character development and character revelation. I'm going to say revelation. I don't mean things like, oh, Clara's gone down the time stream. I just mean you start to find out who these people are. And then you get 2 episodes in which you don't find out anything about who those characters are, because neither of them are in one of the episodes, and one of them's missing in the other, and the one who is in that other is going through all this stuff that is not the stuff that reveals who she is in terms of. And then after that, you come back to this episode, and instead of this episode being about them 2 and about getting us back on track as to finding out who them 2 are, instead Ruby Sunday gets basically sidelined while the Doctor goes off, and we've not seen the Doctor for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden he's having this passionate love affair with this guy that he's only just met, who's a chunk of wood standing in the corner. I don't have a problem with any of the individual parts, but if you lay it in a line like that, it's almost like they've made this series of Doctor Who where there's no character development and no character insight.
I think that I was just going to say, I think that falls into the category of shit getting in the way of, like, TV is a crazy, crazy business. And if they had all the time in the world and everything right, and no one else had any other schedules,
which is, I think,
it's a bit like when you read The Writer's Tale and he realizes he's just let Stephen Moffat get on with it, and then he realizes he's got turn left and he's got.
Which is why I think it's
like, oh shit.
which is why I think it's a problem of the sequencing of the episodes, rather than the content of the episodes.
I would agree as well, but I also think that's sort of my argument to letting them off the hook. But I think one of the big things to get into is putting, like I said when we were talking about Dot and Bubble last week, tonally Doctor Who can do anything, and I and I thought one of the genius things about Dot and Bubble was it was the first time the Doctor's ethnicity was acknowledged as an actual real world thing, and he did it in sort of in future, like when you could just basically go, it's the future, no one gives a shit what color your skin is. And he didn't do it in, he didn't go and visit the plantations, or he didn't go to any other period of time when his skin color would have been awful. He didn't do a Rosa. But then the next week they had what Bridgerton has, which is colorblind casting in a historical setting. And I mean, Bridgerton, many people have written many essays, and we'll ignore the anti-woke twats, but black African American academics some of them have been very pissed off with Bridgerton. It's made by a black woman, but they've been very pissed off because those people are living in houses built by slavery. So it's basically the tone of Bridgerton is very problematic to some readings, or you just go, fuck it, the tone is, it's colorblind casting, it's about as historical as Star Trek.
But the problem here is not that you've got colorblind casting and that they're ignoring the issue. The problem here is that they're ignoring that issue while lampshading the other issue. So everybody in that room doesn't bat an eyelid when the black character walks in, but all of a sudden when he starts dancing with a bloke, they do. Now, which is it? Are those people going to accept these things, or are those people not going to accept
and
these things?
I agree, like Matt was saying about, you maybe prefer this, but maybe not as far as this version of history. I'm a little bit more, I'd like the Rosa. I'd like the Doctor to land. I like, I hated it when Moffat had them land in Viking times and they had horns on their helmets. I hated that. I mean, I've got over it, but maybe not. But I prefer real history. I mean, this made us think of Family of Blood, and Family of Blood had real racism in it. It had, and it's, and I think it's trouble. It's problematic to put these two, like JR says, it's undercut Dot and Bubble's impact slightly, and then but it's also gone, fuck it, it's Doctor Who, tonal shift. But then that makes it more disposable.
I think the
reminds
problem,
us it's just TV.
I think the problem, and I thought Dot and Bubble was great and had massive impact, but the problem is it had massive impact, and with a massive impact you have a crater, and you either go into the crater, and then you basically lose the chance to do these sort of ironic historical episodes.
But I also, I don't know why you should have to have ironic episodes, because that time period, like, it's almost like they deliberately set it when there were people of color around, so they could have just made reference to it, and then it would have been okay, they've acknowledged he's black.
Or better yet,
they wouldn't have gone, he's black, put him in the kitchen.
Or better yet,
that's not how they would have. That's not how aristocrats responded.
Or
there were lots of mixed marriages until racism in the colonial period proper came about. So that period, but you could have had.
Or better yet, you put something in between the two episodes so that it's not so obvious.
So I agree with JR that I think the ordering of the episode, there isn't a sense that there's a story over these episodes or a character arc. I think it's because of production things and Gatwa's availability. I think Russell T Davies had 2 years to plan for this, or a year and a half to plan for this. So it's not a writer's tale thing. I think it's literally they chose an actor who was too busy to be in it. I think this episode isn't set in the past, it's set in Bridgerton. And one thing about Bridgerton is colourblind casting. And I also think the colourblind casting, you can criticise the presentation of history, but you can criticise there's no such thing as authentic history in drama. It's all a sliding scale of irony. There's attempts to present, like Dancing with Wolves, but it's always going to be ironic. So once you're on that sliding scale, the thing about colourblind casting is you're giving jobs to people of colour, which ultimately has to be good. So I'd sort of defend Bridgerton as being, you could either you're saying never set things in the Georgian periods ever again because it's racist, or
No,
you
no.
go down the Bridgerton route of actually
Yeah.
kind of retooling
Yeah.
a historical perception of it.
Well, that's
But
why
they-
I don't have a problem with Bridgerton, because
Yeah.
it's tonally going. It's not, it's not connected to
it's-
Doctor Who. It's tonally going. This is a fantasy.
Yeah,
There's no-
I
there's
fucking
no-
And
want-
it's also
people-
picking up exactly what Jane Austen does, which is kind
Yeah.
of she's creating fantasy out of her own present day that
yeah,
reflects her kind of wish fulfillment.
but it is.
And Bridgerton just does that. So Bridgerton isn't set in Georgian period; it's set in the modern day, cosplaying as the Georgian period.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think this is what this episode does.
But it is a choice, and it does affect. I mean, have you seen the Ewan McGregor Moscow Man in Moscow hotel
Yeah.
thing? It's very good, but there's a bit in that, because the tone of that is, this is the Russian Revolution, and then there's a man who's black and he comes in, and my wife spent a lot of time in Moscow, and that made her go, a black guy in Moscow, okay, this is going to be interesting. But it was colorblind casting, so
Yeah.
all the performances and that scene were like, they're just pretending.
Yeah.
And so tonally that jarred for me,
And
whereas
isn't
in
the
Bridgerton
problem-
it doesn't, because it's fantasy.
But
Yeah.
the problem with this, from
Yeah.
from the Bridgerton perspective, is
Yeah.
the colorblind casting here only goes as far as the extras, doesn't it?
Well, I'm one of the monsters, but yeah, and yeah, I mean, that is,
And,
I
the,
mean-
and the main character, the Doctor.
Yeah.
But he's already cast.
Well,
The
yes,
casting
but-
in this
But
episode.
effectively within this episode, he's been cast within this episode in the central role.
yeah,
And the characters around him are reacting in a particular way to him.
yeah. But I think it's very, I mean, it's a very good point that they're making a point about bigotry, and the bigotry is real, and the the homophobia. But
Yeah.
so again, it doesn't just undercut Dot and Bubble; it undercuts its own thing, because this is the period when everyone was homophobic and massively racist, but the racist bit hasn't happened for some reason, because so it's a slight fudge, and here we are.
I think
Well,
that's
I
a
think-
that is a
Doubting
Doctor
about
Who
it.
a Doctor
But-
Who presents history thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
And also,
yeah.
I think it is to do with the order. I think if this wasn't after Dot and Bubble,
Yeah,
and
the
also
thing
if,
about the
if it was
order
with
is-
a white Doctor
Mm.
instead of a black Doctor,
Mm.
I don't think we'd notice as much.
Well, and
I mean,
two
we did in the
things-
Shakespeare Code slightly, but that was Gareth Roberts, and that was a while ago, so we don't
Wow.
really need to think about that.
But
Yeah.
the two things about that with this are, if they clearly, Russell T Davies clearly decided that this was going to be the order of the episodes before they
Mm.
made them. If he'd have made the episodes in a different order, they could have shifted the emphases around.
Mm.
Because part of the problem is he's decided to put the two Doctor Light episodes together, which means you jump from the character of the Doctor who you see in Boom to the character of the Doctor you see here. But I think the other thing is, and this is the thing that I think makes it slightly more of a problem, and this is the 42 thing. Do you remember when 42 was on back in 2007?
Mm.
And the big thing in Doctor Who magazine and in the promotion was, this episode takes place in real time. And then you scratch your head and you think, well, since Russell T Davies has been the showrunner, which are the episodes that actually don't take place in real time? Because they basically do. The episodes are about 45 minutes long, on screen and off. They basically take place in real time. Not all of them. Occasionally you get one like Rose, which goes
70
across.
or 73 yards.
Mhm.
Yeah, all 73
Um,
yards.
yeah.
My point, though, Matt, is this is an episode. If you're going to show the Doctor falling in love, if you're going to show these issues that we're talking about, you need to do it in a way that gives those things substance. But I think the fact that this basically is all over and done with in probably about an hour, I don't think lends substance to any of those things. I don't think we've been shown that this Doctor is a character who falls in love that deeply. This is a Doctor who embraces things, but embracing life, the sort of panoply of the whole of life, is one thing. Falling that deeply for this character and allowing
I'm
other things.
I'm struggling at the moment in this series to see this Doctor as a character.
Yeah.
I see this Doctor as a sort of force of nature, and he loves joy, but all Doctors do. I can't. This is the first time I've seen him do different things, so I found it quite interesting. But he's not he's not bedded down as being a sort of an individual character for me yet.
I think that goes back to Giggle though. It's because he's the Doctor who's had therapy essentially.
Yeah.
So he is embracing life like that. Does he fall deeply because he's naive about it? Is it, say, a first love affair equivalent? Particularly for this persona.
And I'm waiting for the conflict to happen, because there has to be a conflict in the character to make it interesting. Otherwise, it's a shallow character.
But this is the Doctor who cries in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of, I mean, to me, that's like, okay, is that telling us that this is a character who is so embracing of the world around him that he feels every emotion that it's given him? Or is it actually going to say, well, when the Doctor actually has to emote at the end of the series or whatever, there's going to be a moment at the end of the series where the Doctor cries and we're supposed to cry with him. And we're just going to go, yeah, but he's been crying every week. What's the difference?
I think it says that Gatwa's got that really good ability of an actor to just cry on cue.
Yeah.
But
then you've got to be careful.
Maybe he cries on too many cues, possibly.
Yeah. I mean,
you've got to ration these things.
On the other side of it, post-therapy Doctor, again, this is going back to Family of Blood and other things like that, is the whole, when he wanted the vengeance, how long do they live?
Yeah.
Good, 600 years is a long time to suffer. Yeah. That was, in a weird way, more interesting than Crying Doctor. That was, and I wonder if they're going to address the fact that he might have had all this therapy, but actually he is who he is, which is Time Lord Victorious, slightly, when he's not running around. You could almost tie that into the fact he just goes, anyway, on with adventures, and Ruby gives him a hug, and that was very nicely done. That was all, and I think that tied in with the Doctor's cosplaying as a happier person than he is, and the fact that Rogue is a Dungeons and Dragons player, which was, how many people would get that those dice meant it was Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, I did.
I did because I'm a massive geek.
No, but I didn't. I don't really know Dungeons and Dragons.
Very much fan aimed, isn't it?
Yeah.
A mass audience that's aimed purely at fans.
Although maybe post Stranger Things, a lot more people know what it is, even without playing it.
Maybe post Dungeons and Dragons the movie.
Maybe, yeah, and especially in America, a lot more people just know what Dungeons and Dragons is, without really knowing any more about it. But that all tied in with the, in some ways, aren't we all cosplaying? That was the sort of broader theme. Everyone impersonating everyone putting on a front, and the Doctor showing actually he's more Tennant-like. I'm going to kill the bastards and put them in a mirror, and stand him in a field as a scarecrow for the rest of his life. All that stuff that's really dark, that was actually still there. So he might have had therapy, but actually his core being isn't the good guy.
We've not seen that as a development, have we? I think that's the issue. We've not seen that as a development. It's just kind of arrived.
Yeah. No, you could argue that. You could say if then later on, maybe he could even have a conversation about it. Sorry.
I mean, it feels like it's a default thing when you're writing Doctor Who to recognise that actually the Doctor is a boring character unless you give him a sudden burst of ruthlessness. Because every Doctor, maybe bar Jodie Whittaker, has Jodie Whittaker ever had that ruthlessness?
No, she's exactly the. I'm just rewatching her first season, and even to tie it back to Family and Blood, during the lockdown, Paul Cornell even had Jodie Whittaker's character going and releasing people from the Family of Blood.
Yeah.
So
she gets to do to the Daleks in the Middle Dalek story, doesn't she?
And she does commit massive genocide at the end of Flux as well, but that's, apart from the genocide, she's a very woke Doctor who, I've just rewatched Arachnids and she makes a big, massive thing of humanely killing the spiders. So she's, But in the logic of the show, they're always slightly different every incarnation. I can't imagine most of the Doctors gyrating to Kylie Minogue, but this one does. I think if Sylvester McCoy was doing it and with his spoons, I mean, that would be highly. That would be highly. That would possibly be that would break me. I think.
I think they all do things but they all do things. So you've got the cricket playing Fifth Doctor.
Yeah,
that is the equivalent of the Doctor going off and having Kylie Minogue on his sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
So they all have superficial differences, but in the end, writing the Doctor is exactly the same for each Doctor.
And in a way,
it's writing a character.
Yeah, in a way,
and I better explain the cricket thing. I better explain why it's exactly the same for anybody who's, because it is the Doctor as a part of their nature doing something that is absolutely specific to human beings, and they're not a human being, and so they are, as part of their nature, doing something that shouldn't be part of their nature.
I mean, the Fifth Doctor was cosplaying as a cricketer, basically.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what I mean? That's on the subject of going back to what I was saying about the fact that it sort of takes place in real time a bit. So, and then the other thing that people always say about, and it's a criticism of some writers, and it's a praise thing that they throw towards other writers, is if you're going to have long conversation scenes, have people doing things while it's happening, disguise the fact that it's exposition, all this kind of stuff. I felt, and I've only watched it once, so it might not be so much an issue on the second time, but this felt to me like an episode where there are long scenes of people just standing talking to each other while there's nothing going on.
This felt to me, this is when I started comparing, when you compare it to Family of Blood, because I thought when I was watching it, that was the closest episode.
I thought Go in the Fireplace.
And they go all and the Go in the Fireplace, but that goes all over, that goes outside, inside, all over the place.
Got a little
and
bit
I thought
outside,
that this missed it. A lot of these episodes feel oddly like chamber pieces rather than sort of wide scale. Even the ones that go everywhere, like 73 yards, hops around the country and through time, still felt like they all feel a bit like Boom. Weirdly.
I mean, but here in the middle, you've got that weird scene where he takes Groff into the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And again, they had to get Groff to sort of walk around the outside of the bridge just to make it feel like something was happening, rather than it was just two blokes standing there talking to each other still. It just,
I don't know. I felt like it felt like the Doctor was having that bang, he's just met a bloke on a night out and he's going hard. Choice of words there. But in every sense of the word.
Where's Joe when you need him?
Yes. Well, basically he's having one of those intense things that happens to all people. And you might feel like you're falling in love, and then it might not quite happen, but you did go, God, I was probably going to, the things I was thinking about that person. And then
shall I tell you the difference between this and the Girl in the Fireplace?
Did that with Madame Le Pompadour?
No, in Madame Le Pompadour, he's impressed with this person until she goes into his mind when he's trying to go in hers. And that's the moment when something inside the Doctor changes. And the reason it changes is not just because she did something that he didn't think she was capable of, but that she was metaphorically inside him when she did that. So in doing that, she's affecting him from the inside. Here, you've literally just got, there's a bloke standing up in the thing, and that's it. He goes up there and he's flirting with him instantly. I say flirting with him. He's talking about the fact that he's got a moody look on his face. I thought for a scene of flirting, I thought it was terrible, to be honest.
But I think this comes down to my view that this isn't the proposed Hugo winner of the season. I think that's 73 yards, Boom, or Dot and Bubble. This isn't trying to beat Girl in the Fireplace.
Doesn't mean it can't be better.
Well, yeah, but maybe, I mean, that's what I've always thought is why isn't every Doctor Who story like Blink or better? And actually I'm coming to the conclusion that it doesn't work week on week. Having those sort of big hitters just wouldn't work. You have to have filler episodes, comedic episodes. You have to have sort of shallower episodes just to sort of
it doesn't. But I've still got to believe. I've still got to believe that the Doctor actually fancies that bloke, and that the Doctor's inane chatter would actually mean something to that bloke.
I mean, I believed it. I mean, I guess if I analyse it, it wasn't the bit I was focusing on too much, but it was basically they were meeting and both really fancying each other, and he was probably going, God, imagine if Captain Jack hadn't been such a bastard or such a dick. This guy's like Captain Jack without being a dick. But yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could probably argue it's the weakest part of the episode, but I would say with formats like this and very much Doctor Who being post Buffy, you watch these things and you watch for the characters. You want to see it, even if it's a bad episode, you still enjoy watching the characters. And so like Matt said, you've got to have a variety of tone, but we're tuning in because, you know, we're watching Shooty and Millie.
I think that was it for me, though. I just didn't care about the characters.
Just to pick up, we're more than post Buffy now.
Well, yes,
we're post Buffy. Yeah.
Yes, but you know what I mean.
Post
Bridgerton.
Claudius now.
Yes.
We're post Bridgerton, aren't we? Is what we are.
Yeah. Or Stranger Things is a recent phenomenon that's a lot about the characters. We don't really even talk too much about the plot. More and more as it goes on, we talk about the characters.
But this is
we just want to hang out with the characters.
This is Russell T Davies, who famously is the one who really writes the in-depth characters. I've always thought he writes caricatures rather than characters. But here, you're not really getting either caricatures or characters.
I think he writes what he thinks people want, and I think that he's a populist. So and it's I don't know.
He writes 2 layers to characters. Yeah, he writes 2 layers to characters. The characters he writes, that superficially what makes them attractive, but he always says he puts a note of selfishness into them, which is why that's kind of convincing, because the characters have something they want straight away, and that leads to conflict.
But that doesn't make them characters. That just makes them the same character that Russell T Davies keeps writing over and over again.
Yeah, but the point is, he didn't write characters this week.
No, but I'm talking again about this series. This series seems to be remarkably character-free. Not entirely, but for a Russell T Davies series. Do you remember, like, series 2 or whatever, and you'd had Queen Victoria, who was a big character in that episode, and in New Earth you'd had Cassandra, who was a big character in that episode, and both of those episodes had other characters who you recognized and who you really still remember now. The guy who owned Torchwood House, the guy from No Angels, he was another fantastic character in Tooth and Claw, and the guy who was looking after Cassandra in New Earth was another fantastic Chip. That's the one. And then the week after that, you've got Anthony Head. But this year it's sort of like, well, we've had
Jinx
Maestro,
Monsoon.
Jinx Monsoon, and
Susan
that's
Twist.
about it. Well, not even. I mean, Susan Twist keeps popping up, but we only reckon she pops up as a. I mean, I'm assuming that painting was supposed to be Susan Twist this week. Yes. It sure didn't look like her.
Yes, it did. It totally looked like her. But I didn't. My big Googling mission after watching this was they do the whole when they make a reference to her constant judgment, and that made me go, because people have been muttering about the new Tales of the TARDIS, which has been in a Radio Times article. I've seen lots of spoilers have dropped on the spoiler WhatsApp that you guys do, and I am not looking at that because I hate being spoiled. But so I've averted my eyes. But lots of people have been talking about Sutekh, which is someone who is writing Sutekh right now. I've got a year's worth of Sutekh for Cutaway Comics to come out. I really hope it's not Sutekh. But if it's an Assyrian, it did make me go. Constant Judgment would be Mart with a double A, not. So the god of judgment that weighs your heart.
Mart's the feather, isn't it? Anubis.
Yeah, and also
scale, so it could be.
Yeah. So part of me wonders if, but Sutekh isn't Anubis. Sutekh is Set. So I wonder if it might just turn out to be nothing to do with any of these things. But if Pyramids of Mars is we had the reference to it with in the Maestro episode, Devil's Court, and we've had it's going to be about gods, which makes everyone start thinking about Sutekh. Part of me wonders if it's going to be an Assyrian but not Sutekh.
I
And as for purely selfish reasons, I hope that's the option, and Sutek's not going to come back. Obviously, our Sutek is not an Assyrian, because that's the one bit we're not allowed to say, because that's copyright.
Well, I'm not sure that it would be that anyway, would it? Isn't the place we're supposed to be going someone who's above those kinds of things?
It's a god, isn't it? And Sutek isn't really a god. He's just a very powerful alien.
Yeah, he's
like a Zal, isn't he?
Well, he's sort of like Cthulhu or whatever. Technically an alien, also a god, because he's immortal. But
he's got to be somebody who's above that, who's like entirely omnipotent.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky.
I think the way the series is progressing, it's going to be a new god character created by Russell T Davies.
I think you have to have that big impact. So I think it has to play on the past somewhere.
He's been playing on the past constantly.
Davros.
It's going to be
Davros.
Is not a godlike figure, though.
Doesn't have to be. It could be the opposite. Could be that the gods are afraid of man.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I think he's been weirdly, because everyone's grumbling. He's basically gone, the past doesn't matter, and then all he's done is have even more references than the show's ever had before, and. So I expect to see Carol Ann Ford, is one thing I will say. I'm expecting Carol Ann Ford to pop up.
Yay!
I know, and she'll be there for 2 minutes, if at max. But
that's why she's doing Hooverville this year.
Oh yes, that's what I thought. But she's also rumored to have shot something. So but that might just be for Tales of the TARDIS, and that might be as far as it goes. But
maybe the Tales from the TARDIS that we've been told about, which now turns out to be Gatwa and Ruby Sunday, maybe they go into the memory TARDIS and find Carol Ann Ford there, and that's your excuse to play Dragonfire.
It'll be Planet of the Giants.
Dragonfire.
Yeah. I gotta say, so going by a couple of speculations, so neither of these are based on actual rumor or anything like this, but this was just a couple of things that people said speculating about certain things, and if I put them together and put my own spin on it, so I think the gods thing might be next year anyway. I think this year is going to be the Susan Twist thing. Russell T Davies has been doing his versions of mostly Stephen Moffat, but previous showrunners this year. So a lot of this year, he's been doing things that other showrunners have done. I wonder if Ruby Sunday at the end of this series goes back into the timelines somehow, disappears into the timelines. So it's a bit like Clara, but it's more like the Doctor at the end of the Big Bang, where he disappears back into the timelines, and Susan Twist gets sent by the Doctor in to find her. So Susan Twist could be in the timelines looking for Ruby Sunday.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't think it was that was because it's been done before, as Clara popping up
everything
all the time.
This year has been done before.
But it might just be some.
Yeah, she keeps popping up in more sort of caring roles, more maternal roles. Even the ambulance, which is kind of malevolent, is a caring thing. The Hitchhiker, she helps Ruby. She's not a malevolent character as presented.
But she is constant judgment now. We've had that.
Yes, there you go.
So, but the little snippet of her from the next time on Doctor Who bit had Susan Twist as a normal person freaking out that something, I can't remember what the lines were. So it's almost like there's a real Susan Twist, and then there's something that's happened to her that's also made her an evil splinter.
I love the fact that the actor's name is so unlikely that we're now talking about the character with the actor's name rather than Susan Triad.
Well, they've basically given them the same name, haven't they?
Yeah, well, I know Susan Twist, so she's a big Manchester actor, and so that's Russell. I would imagine Russell has known her for years as well. But we cast her in like a Coronation Street Live thing we did, and she was a friend of mine's landlady, who was an actor. So she's a lovely woman, and she really is called Susan Twist.
Yeah, like a likely story. You're just a Russell T Davies shill brought on.
Yes, God, I've been called shill again. Do you know how many times I've been called a shill by Reform?
You're going to turn up on everybody's podcast with a different name, maybe a
Yes.
false beard, just
Yes.
saying exactly the same thing to get this
Yes.
conspiracy going.
Yeah.
Kelly.
It's all part of the intricate misdirect.
Yeah.
As
Right.
we
Let us give Rogue a score, and then we'll come back next week to talk about the first half of the finale and the Daleks, obviously, because Russell T Davies can't do a penultimate episode without climaxing on the Daleks.
Ooh,
Tish. Ian, give me a score out of 10 for this one.
7 out of 10.
So Matt, give me a score out of 10.
I'm gonna give it
for
an
this
8 out of 10. I think it was fun. I like Bridgerton. I really liked the first season of Bridgerton. I like the sort of playfulness of it. I think this is a bit far down the spectrum of history, but it's generated a conversation about the mediation of history on screen, which is my special. It's my special spot. So
I'm going to go 6. I'm being a bit
Mhm.
generous, really. I was actually slightly bored watching it, but I think it'll probably get
Jay.
better. I don't know, it just didn't hit me at all. I'm assuming I'll like it more the second time. John?
I'll go with Matt, I think, on this. I liked it being more playful. It's something that's kind of nice between some rather kind of intense episodes and the finale. So, yeah, 8 out of 10.
All right. Okay, we'll be back next time to talk about, what's it called? The Legend of Ruby Sunday.
Okay, yeah.
I think so.
Now. Yeah,
Yes,
the
that's
legend.
right.
The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Until that happens, I was JR.
I was Ian.
I was John.
I was Matt.
And we will speak again soon.